Hello, listeners, and welcome to Teachers Have Issues. Yes, I am your host, Lana the Educator. If you're a first-time listener on this channel, welcome. Here we explore the latest educational trends and tackle pressing issues facing the education sector. Also, we conduct insightful interviews with people making a difference and share stories of triumph and innovation from classrooms across the globe. If you're interested in all of this, then like and subscribe. Today on Teachers Have Issues, yes, I welcome my guest, Patrice Trim. Welcome,
Hello.
Patrice.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let me tell them a little bit about you and what you've been doing. Well, first
Sure.
off, Patrice is an exceptional educator with a journey that spans continents. She brings a wealth of experience in teaching, mentoring, and pastoral care, all of which you will hear about in a bit. She has a master's in international teaching from Framingham State University and a bachelor's in English from Medgar Evers College. Patrice has taught English, literature, and drama across multiple grades, nurturing the minds of students both in Trinidad and China. At Wellington Huili, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct,
Wellington Huili, yeah.
Right, in Shanghai. She not only led academic classes, but also played a crucial role in pastoral care, fostering a sense of community and leadership among students. Her deep commitment to education, enlightenment, and cross-cultural understanding has shaped countless young lives. Whether she's directing Shakespeare productions or mentoring students in academic challenges or guiding them through the International Baccalaureate program, we're going to dive into a fascinating conversation about the power of education, the arts, and global learning as we welcome Patrice Trim to Teachers Have Issues. Yes.
Thank you. Like listening to you, I was like, oh, that's impressive. That's me.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
I keep
it is.
telling people that they are like, oh, that's fun. And yes, you guys are doing amazing things out there.
Yeah. I
So,
guess when you're here and you're doing it, you
mm,
don't realize until you talk to other people. It's that outside lens looking in and giving
yeah,
you feedback on your own self. Because I was listening to you and I was like, oh, wow, that's me. Yeah.
that is you.
Thank you. Thank
And that's
you.
like, and that is the thing, looking at you outside, because I do follow, I see you posting and you're talking and you're very open, I think, about your experiences that you're having
Definitely.
as a teacher in a foreign country and in a different culture. So tell us about that. People, Patrice is in China. So, we
So
want to hear
I'm in
all about how did you end up in China?
So before, when I was in Trinidad, I worked at St. Mary's College. And while at St. Mary's College, I was doing my master's in education, with the concentration in international teaching because I wanted to teach internationally. I was surrounded by friends who were doing either working at international school in Trinidad or doing international teaching. And I was thinking like this would be something I want to do in the future. It would be a good experience. I'd get to travel, see the world, experience different cultures, as well as make a meaningful contribution to education. And for me, it's always been that thing of how can I take what I've learned outside and someday bring it back to Trinidad? And I found myself like, I wouldn't say in arguments with people on Facebook because I try to vote because I'm just like, okay, if that's your perspective, good for you.
Yeah,
Hold strong to that belief.
yeah.
Um, but I try to think about how I can make a change, and I still wonder now if I can make a meaningful change to education in Trinidad, bring in my experience and all of those things. But yeah, so it was basically that. So I was, working, left St. Mary's, went to international school, had some interesting personal and professional life experiences. And in one day, I was like, it's now. This is the moment. Because somebody had said that to me. People were encouraging me, like, go out there, do the international teaching. And I was like, I don't know. And somebody said to me one day, you will know when it's time to do it, when it's time, not a moment before. And I was in my car driving to work one day and I was like, it's time. I want to do this. I'm ready. And I applied to different schools. And it was a process. And I was offered a job in Shanghai. And I took it with the intention of staying in Shanghai for 2 years and traveling. I'm now entering my seventh year in Shanghai. Um, So yes, I guess I like it here.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's been an interesting experience.
So how long have you been there? What were the years? When did you, what year did you leave is what I should ask.
I think I left Trinidad in 2018,
Right. So you would have
and
been in China during the pandemic. What
I
was
was
that
in
like?
China during the pandemic. That
Okay.
was, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. It was very interesting and different because I remember, I tell people I watched COVID from a front row seat,
Mm,
start off as something that was happening in China,
mhm,
growing into like a, a pandemic and just spreading all over the world. And I tell people as well, I learned a lot about COVID from people who weren't even in China,
mhm,
because during that time, um, of course, stuff is censored.
mhm,
It's a reality. And nobody was sure what was happening, so you weren't getting information about certain things.
mhm,
So I didn't know what was happening. And then when we were doing that stay at home and lockdown to avoid the spread, I remember like people at home saying like, "Oh, but you can't just do them," and I was thinking, yeah, you can. Like, you can just stay home because if you have no choice, you're going to stay home. Like, you just follow the law and you do what's told.
mhm,
And then I for a long time I didn't know anybody in China who had COVID. All of the people that I knew who had COVID were outside of China.
mhm,
And then yeah, lockdowns and I don't know if you knew, but like Shanghai had like a lockdown for like months.
mhm, wow.
Um, and that was because they had like different rollouts of lockdowns, but there was like one big lockdown where we were like locked in our apartments for months, and you just like go downstairs, you test, you come back, you're working from home, you're teaching classes online.
Mhm,
I used to wake up like very early in the morning,
mhm,
because you're not supposed to leave your house unless you're going downstairs to test. So I would go downstairs, just like a lot of my neighbors, like very early in the morning, like 5 a.m. when it was still dark, walk the dog because I have a small dog.
mhm,
So like walk the dog and then late at night walk the dog again because you can't walk him during the day and he's housebroken. So that had its own challenges. But I always tell people throughout that I consider myself lucky,
mhm,
because I had a strong support in Shanghai with me,
mhm,
a network of friends who became family, as
right.
well as colleagues who were doing that check-in. How you doing? Do you have what you
Mhm,
need? If you here when you were in lockdown,
mhm,
during that time, for example, if you did get COVID, they had places like quarantine places that they would send you to. So
mhm,
like having plans in place, like if you had to be quarantined, who was going to look after the dog? I was going to look after somebody else's dog. So like just those sorts of things. And friends and family like outside of China saying like it's going to be okay and you can do this because you're having that moment of, am I going to be okay? Can I really do
mhm,
this?
mhm,
And I think now I tell people, because at that point, during that big lockdown, I spent 4 months, give or take, locked in my apartment.
mhm,
And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a
mhm,
lot about others. And I feel now, in many ways, there are few things
mhm,
I can't face head on because of it, because I'm just like, this is difficult and challenging, and I'm probably going to be sad about it, but
mhm,
also I can do this because
mhm,
I've been through worse. And during lockdown, I consider myself lucky as well because it was just me and the dog. We got you would get like government rations, and there was like bulk buying. It was like a crazy but interesting time. But there were people who didn't have what they needed,
mhm.
and they would have to wait together. And I didn't have that experience. So I really consider myself lucky in all of that
Because I
stuff
was
that was
watching you
happening.
posting and I'm saying, it must be lonely and scary being that it was scary, I guess, worldwide, but for you in particular must have been very frightening.
It
And not having
was.
like your family there or anything like that, you know.
It was, but also, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right? The glass is half empty, half full. I had
Mhm.
friends who were surrounded by people in their house and they
Mhm.
were going crazy because it was just like too many people and things to have to deal with. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Um, I, I, I'm not sure I would say I was lonely. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that's the word I would use.
Mhm.
I definitely had times when
Mhm.
I missed my friends and I missed my family, and I wish that I had them closer so
Mhm.
that I would have that person to like talk to or bounce ideas off of. But then there was technology, and I would have
Mhm.
times where I could do that and I can talk to people. But
Mhm.
also, there were times when I felt like I was overstimulated. So
Oh.
I was glad that I didn't have anybody because I felt like having to take care of myself and the dog was enough.
No.
Like, couldn't
That's good.
I
And I'm
couldn't have
glad.
to
I'm
do
glad.
anything else. Yeah. So it
And
was a
I was
mix. I would
glad
say
that you
it's
were
a
doing
mixed
well
bag.
because I know you.
Yeah.
I looked at you on social media and I said, "Oh, when I heard about COVID and I said, oh my gosh, I know this person from over there." And I was looking. I
Yeah.
was
It
really
was.
glad to see. And when everything lifted and and you can come out and you were so joyous.
And it was funny because I didn't, it was, there was like one Friday, they
Mhm.
decided that they were just going to like remove the restrictions because many different things were happening.
Mhm.
And they just like, okay, you all want restrictions removed. You're going to move the restrictions effective immediately. And they
Mhm.
opened the borders because the borders here were closed. Like it was really difficult to come and go. And
Right.
they opened the borders and I left and I came to Trinidad. I didn't tell people I was coming home
Mhm.
because I wasn't sure how it was going to go and I wanted to surprise people. And my
Right.
mom and a few, like very few people, you could count on one hand, knew I was coming home. And
Mhm.
I remember like coming home, seeing my mom and it's surprising her because just coming home was a crazy story by itself. I got trapped in a snowstorm in Canada and it was just like, what is this? Like, how is this my life? But
Right.
I got home, surprised her eventually on Christmas Day because I was supposed to get there before, so I surprised her on Christmas Day. And then I would have my mom like call people up and be like, "Oh, I have something for you. Can I, just pass and drop it off? Are you home?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm home. Just pass." And then suddenly I was there, and
There.
it was great to like people shock and stuff. Like I have a brother who was expecting my mom and
Mhm.
like saw me and was like, "Oh my God, Patrice is here." And, it was really good. It was really, really good. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your school that you're currently at. What type of school is it? What level students are you teaching? And
So
what are you
my
teaching there?
Sure. So my current school is part of Wellington in China.
Mhm.
And I teach, they have international schools and they have bilingual schools throughout China. They have in Shanghai, Nantong, and I want to say Hangzhou
Mhm.
are the cities. I could be wrong about that, and I should know it. But I'm at their branch of schools in Shanghai, and for all of their schools, they have international streams and you have bilingual streams.
Mhm.
The international streams are kind of self-explanatory. It's for people who have foreign passport holders, so they and or their families are international um, through some sort, whether they're here working or they were locals who were born abroad, etc. And then they have a bilingual school, which is Huili,
Mhm.
where they do both a Chinese and an international curriculum at the same
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
So I work there. I teach grades 6 to 9, which would be the equivalent of Form 1 to Form 4, and I
Mhm.
will go up with my grade 9s to grade 10.
Mhm.
So it'll be, I guess, up to Form 5. So
Mhm.
back to my St. Mary's days, which
Yeah.
is quite uh, I guess, a full rotation for me because after I left St. Mary's and I went to international school, I was only working in middle school, and
Mhm.
I could consider myself like a full middle school student.
Mhm.
Sorry, a full middle school teacher. and I like middle school students. So now I'm back in high school. It's like navigating new waters all over again. I My previous school was Shanghai United International School, which is Swiss. They have many schools as well, similar, having local. They have local campuses as or streams, as well as bilingual, where they offer both international and local education. The students who go to these schools, because bilingual schools are big in China, these parents ideally, I guess, want their children to go to school abroad. If they're staying here, they want them exposed to learning English and to like an international way of thinking, being, doing, the travel, stuff like that. So I taught drama only at my previous school, and with like some touches of English, but it was heavily drama. This new school, it's heavier English with like touches of the drama, where I get to like help out with school productions and stuff like that.
So have you encountered any cultural differences in how students approach, self-expression in the classroom, especially since you're doing drama or you did drama and English together there?
That's a tricky question because people ask me that all the time, and my first answer is always, of course, there are cultural differences, but for me, at the end of the day, people are people. Children are children. So you have children who are very brave and outgoing and very expressive and want to learn lines and be on stage and perform and share their ideas, and they're thrilled about it, and they want to dress up and they want to participate, and they want their parents to come and see them, and they want their peers to see them, and they're great with that. And then you have children who are like, okay, I don't know why you're making me do this. I don't want to share my thoughts with you. And it's not just in drama. It's like even in English class, I don't want to share my thoughts. The last thing I want to do, if I did share my thoughts, was to share my thoughts on a stage. Because you have introverted and extroverted people in every single culture, right? So children are children. I try to, I had a teacher tell me the other day that it's difficult to work alongside me because he feels like, he was like, I can't do what you do. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, no matter what you're telling the children, you're excited and you're hyped about it. You're very excited. And I said, yeah, even if you're delivering bad news to them, you can't be like, okay, guys, you have bad news. I'm like, guys, I have good news and I have bad news. What do you guys want first? So I try to bring in elements of drama, even into my English class. Like, what do you think? And I get excited when the students understand something. And I told my students the other day, I don't like poetry. I, have mixed feelings about it. They probably don't like poetry and understand poetry. But if I come and I'm kind of like boring and kind of like, okay, guys, today we're going to learn poetry and we're going to look at the literary devices. My students won't be inspired, right? They won't be interested. It's boring. So I try to bring the dramatic elements to it and make it exciting and do voices and actions. And I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, you'll get accustomed, let's go. And when I taught drama only as well, one of the things I did at my last school a lot was a Shakespeare showcase, and setting it in different cultures. So we did one, for example, where the students learned about Shakespeare, they learned about Julius Caesar, and then we set Julius Caesar in China. So instead of it being Romans, it was like old Chinese emperors and two feuding families. And so you put it in a way that they can understand it, enjoy it, and go from there.
Wow, interesting. So do you think, well, I'm not saying do you, I'm assuming it did, working in China has influenced your teaching style and your teaching philosophy?
I think working in Trinidad has influenced my teaching style and teaching philosophy. I'd start there. And then I think it started, I think at schools like St. Mary's, and then definitely at like international school, and then being abroad. Because, for example, when I was in school, I had some teachers who were absolutely fantastic. And this is not to, knock anybody. Some teachers have like a gift. They, no matter what the topic is, you're interested in it, you want to learn, you kind of forced to learn because you have exams or whatever it is, right? So you do it. But then I had some teachers where I felt like it was just a job. I felt like they didn't like me and or my peers. They were just doing it because I'm not sure what the because is, but because. And I didn't want to be that kind of teacher. I wanted to always be the kind of teacher where when my students look back on their educational journey, I had some sort of positive impact on them. That was always important because I have teachers who are near and dear to my heart. I mean, like when I went to St. Francois in Trinidad. And I had teachers like Miss Pillai, Miss Gomez. Who else was one of my favorite teachers? I'm seeing their faces and I'm blanking on names. Miss Baldwin, Miss Richardson. They were Miss IDK, and they were really good teachers who and this might shock you, but I was a difficult student. Mild shock. But they kind of, embraced me and nurtured my talents. Miss Cumberbatch in particular. Miss Cumberbatch was my literature teacher, and she was absolutely amazing. And we were doing Julius Caesar. And no teenager wants to learn about Shakespeare, but I can still quote from Julius Caesar now because of her, because she brought it to life. And that's the kind of teacher I wanted to be. So that definitely influenced my teaching style. And then getting into teaching, and of course you have evaluations and stuff, and you're looking at teachers and they're saying like you have to do all of these things, and it's fine. But then looking at teachers and be like, okay, I don't want to be like that teacher, but I want to be like this teacher, or little elements of different people. So I would say different things shaped it. In terms of being in China, I meet now people from all over the world, definitely, who are teaching, and different ideas and point of views and perspectives and approaches to teaching. And that has also shaped me and the culture here. I'm one of the teachers. If they say tomorrow they are doing, this weekend is Mid-Autumn Festival. So it's a big holiday here celebrating the Girl in the Moon there. And they say, okay, we have a dress-up day. There are people who are, I want to say like expat teachers who will not dress up. They will just come to work in their regular clothes and show up. I am the teacher who's going to put on traditional Chinese clothes and be in work, because that matters to the students, because that would have mattered to me. So those sorts of things. And then I have great experiences because the kids are like, you have on a handful. And I'm like, okay, it just look like Chinese clothes to me, but thank you for letting me know. So you learn from the students. So I would say, being here has, shaped who I am, but it started in Trinidad, definitely.
One of the things I'm sitting on very anxiously waiting to ask you is about whether there's a language barrier or issues with language translation in your teaching in the classroom.
Yes and no. I live in Shanghai. I'm lucky. So I live in a big city, in a very cosmopolitan city. Shanghai has 25 million people. So there are like lots of people here. It is easy with Chinese extremely technologically advanced. So there's always some sort of app that you can use to help you translate stuff. I have friends who speak Chinese, I have Chinese friends. So I would say 80% of it is easy. Right. There's that 20% of nobody can help you do it, even if you knew the language. You just have to kind of like see it through and hope for the best. There's that, element of it. But like on a day-to-day, I work in a bilingual school. So I'm communicating. My job is to teach students not how to speak English, because I'm in middle school and they learn that either privately or in elementary school. So I teach students literature and language. So I develop their writing skills, and of course they're going to learn vocabulary and all of those things with me, but I'm not teaching them how to speak it. So I don't have a problem there because I'm speaking to them in English. And I have some classes where the students they have a little less vocabulary, and so I help them. I do a lot of scaffolding to help reinforce ideas and build their language skills and all of those things. But no, because I don't need the Chinese and they need the English from me. So it kind of works itself out, if you know what I mean. Like it's that thing. And then you have like, if I have a parent meeting and I have a parent who, because you do have it, who speaks little to no English, you have somebody on campus who is bilingual and who can help you translate. So it doesn't, it affects you, but it doesn't. And China is also so technologically advanced. They use a lot of apps, like technology is huge here, huge. I was telling somebody the other day, in a year, I probably go to the grocery maybe 4 to 5 times. And that's probably because I'm in a mall that has a grocery and I'm like, oh, I should, and it's a mall near my home. I should see what they have. From my phone, they have apps. I can just order stuff. So if the app itself, because you have the app, so there's one called Ulama for food. If within the app, like the store doesn't have the menu and stuff bilingually, they have pictures. So if I want blueberries, I can look and see their blueberries and click that. So it's easy. You don't really need it.
Okay, good.
And people always ask me, so I don't know if you're going to ask me that, how is my Chinese? I know, like, let's
tell you a secret, because I put it at the top after introduction.
Yeah.
I put, ask her if she can speak any Chinese.
I can say like I don't even have conversation. I'll get by Chinese. I have like stuff that I know. Right. So I can say things like ni hao, which is,
everybody knows.
Hello. I can say zaijian, which is bye-bye. I can say a couple of things that kind of like swing it. And of course, the students have taught me, and not just students, but at my first school, the students taught me some swear words, so I definitely know those. So if I hear them, I'm like, are you swearing over there? And
right.
Like, yes, you are. I know exactly what you just said. But again, because I live in a big city, I don't need the language. Right. So my Chinese is terrible. Like I keep saying, like, this is the year I'm going to learn Chinese. Never.
But is it a concern for, I know it's a bilingual school, international, in terms of accent, because there would be like American and English, and there are varieties of English accents. Is that an issue for parents or for you?
Sometimes. Sometimes I say things and the students ask me, what did I say? Or teacher might ask me, what did I say? Because my accent on a particular word might come across very thick, for want of a better word. In classes, I make, and when I'm speaking to my colleagues, I make a concerted effort to slow down my rate of speech and think about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. So sometimes it can be an issue, but it's very rare.
Minimal. Okay.
Yeah.
I know, because I feel like even when I look up, and you're looking at teachers teaching abroad on YouTube, and you'd see like a lot of Koreans or whatever, they're talking about the preference for the American accent or the preference for the English accent. And I know that we have our Caribbean accent. So I thought I would ask if that would have been an issue, in case people are, they're holding back. They don't want to teach internationally because they're afraid that their accent might be a barrier to that.
I would say it's 50-50. Okay. I've had friends who say to me, like, if I come back from a holiday, or because there's a Caribbean community in China, and in Shanghai, and I have a very good friend who's here, and she's Jamaican. One of my best friends from Trinidad is also in Shanghai. So like sometimes I meet people like them and we talk, and of course we will talk in a way, we're not slowing down the language, we laugh and we talk when we're having a good time. And then when I go to work, my friends will be like, oh, were you with your Caribbean friends this weekend? And I'm like, yeah, why? And they're like, because you sound very Caribbean. So again, for me, that's a signal to slow it down and pay attention. But then because of my personality and the dynamic that I'm bringing to the classroom, my students like it, because even though they may not, when I get into that mode, they may not understand something that I'm saying because I'm being so excited. Works in my favor. So I'll be like, guys, we have a problem today. Let me tell you what happened. And they're like, oh, and they're into the story. So I'm telling a story, and the students are, and then they're like, wait, hang on, this story is crazy. And I'm like, that is the point. Now, your turn. Tell me a story. And they're excited. It was speaking in a way where you're using, I would say, more like dialect. Your chances of people not understanding you becomes greater.
Right.
And that's the way I think you would have a problem. So you have to be aware of your audience. I think it's a better answer, and speak to suit your audience. Because even the way I would talk to my colleagues on a one-on-one, if we're in the classroom, I'd be like, blah, 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 dotish, because I've taught them dotish a lot. And they would laugh. I wouldn't say that in a classroom setting where it's, or with a parent, so it's that sort of thing. I've explained to a lot of my colleagues what liming is, and I've had a couple lines, and I've offered them some Caribbean rum, because I have some Angostura 1919 and some Caribbean, giving them. In China, in Shanghai, it have a few people who understand liming very well.
Right.
Peter have that one over and older. I must tease him when I talk to him.
Yes. I'm going to ask you what issues you think teachers have.
Where to start? What issues do teachers have?
What comes to mind first when you hear the question? Do you think of Trinidad first? The issues you think we have here in Trinidad?
Yes,
well,
because again, there's a part of me that wants to come home and make a meaningful contribution to education home and make some changes. I think there's still a lot of rote learning at home, so children just have to learn stuff to pass these exams. And I think that's a problem everywhere in teaching, but different ways of teaching helps to alleviate some of the rote learning, because of course children will always have standardized exams and so to do, right? But I feel like so home has some problems. I think some people home are set in their mindset, so they're not they don't have a growth mindset, so they're not thinking outside of the box when it comes to their teaching, their approach to teaching, the students, their colleagues, the education system. So I think that's a problem. I think in some ways, I mean, of course I'm not home, but from what I see and hear from friends who are teachers who have children, maybe there's not enough funding in Trinidad for education. And I think too, because I'm in China, where there is so much technology being used to help make education better, I feel like that canon should be introduced home. So maybe lack of funding and resources to help make education better. In terms of issues outside, I think, or across the board, I think I'm lucky that I have a good admin that understands the needs of teachers, and they try to help and support teachers in different ways. So you have people who help you pastorally, people who help you with your day-to-day teaching and those sorts of things. But I think I hear horror stories from other people, and I'm just, okay, I'm lucky. I think workload is a lot for teachers. I think that's an issue people have. Teachers have workload. Because I think people say oh, you're lucky, you all have summer off, and we don't have Easter, but a spring break and Easter break in Trinidad and Christmas holidays and Chinese New Year here, and you have breaks. But we deserve those breaks. And I think people have forgotten when they were locked in their homes with their children during COVID, how hard teaching can be.
Yes, for sure.
They've forgotten. I think they appreciated teachers for a week or two, and then it was more than 5 minutes. They appreciated us, but I think they've forgotten. I think workloads are really heavy. I think finding a work-life balance, whether you're in Trinidad, you're in the US, you're in China, finding that work-life balance where you have enough time to teach your class and plan for them properly and execute them properly, and then mark all your papers and do all your paperwork, and then have some time for yourself and or your family. I think for me, I struggle with that. So I feel like that's an issue that teachers have. Knowing when they need to change, I think, is an issue that teachers have, whether it's your approach to your job, or your students, or your classes, or your colleagues, or teaching. Like, I have people who've said, like, I've taught for many years and it's time to stop. This is my 14th year of teaching. But I was thinking the other day, like, what am I going to do? I don't want to be in my 50s as a teacher in the classroom, right? I want to be doing something else. So, like, knowing when it's time to change. I think those are issues teachers share. There are probably more. I think, like, for me, being an international teacher, an issue I face is distance. To see friends or family as a teacher, it's at least 2 days travel. At least 2 flights. If I'm coming to Trinidad, 3 flights.
Wow.
So an issue that I face is distance and connectivity, because there are things like being out here. I've lost touch and connection with, and it affects, relationships with people, and people say stuff and you're like, what does that even mean, right? Like, what are you trying to say? Knowing when to not be a teacher, I think is an issue teachers face, because people sometimes expect you to be in teacher mode all the time. So can you teach me how to do this? Can you show me how to do that? Do you know what this word means? I've said to people, like, I'm an English teacher, I'm not a dictionary. Like, I don't know what every single word means. Like, I've never heard that word before. Like, in context, if you tell me what it is, I might be able to figure it out. But also, I don't know, and that's okay. Knowing when to learn, when to not be a teacher and to be a student and be open and learn, I think, is an issue that teachers face. Because some teachers think, like, I'm the teacher, I know, and I can't make a mistake, and I'm right. And no, like, you have to learn too.
Yeah, you give us a lot to think about there, and I'm glad somebody's saying it, so they know it's it's not just one teacher saying this over and over. It's kind of an experience that many teachers have. So I'm glad that you were able to share that with us. I was thinking back.
Sorry, just to the holidays. People don't understand. Teachers deserve the holiday. We deserve the time that we get. And I think teachers across the board, if you're an international teacher, because people, I don't know if this is something, I have things I think people gatekeep. So, nobody goes out to be an international teacher to be to work for the same amount of money that they're working for at home. So we do get paid well, but we're also not, I don't own Bank of China.
Right.
Right? And Holder doesn't own a bank in the Middle East, but people think because you're out there, like, you have like millions of dollars every month that you could just give them, right? But also I think they should just pay teachers better, because teachers work really hard. That's an issue people have. I think teachers have, that they're not, I don't think teachers are paid enough for what they really do, because a teacher is, you're not just a teacher, you're like a mommy and a daddy and a babysitter, and you're not just teaching your children, because I think this kind of leads into pastoral care. You're not just teaching children how to read and write and count and science. You're teaching them other things like social skills and common sense, and like you're teaching children many things, and people don't understand that. You're teaching them manners and etiquette, because some children are not getting that at home. They're not getting love and attention and how to tie the shoelaces or other things that you as the teacher teaching them. So they should pay teachers like a lot more money than they do, because teachers are doing so much. And I mean, somebody would probably listen to this podcast and correct me. I mean, and I'm open to corrections. I learned But I can't think of a job that somebody has now that a teacher didn't prepare them for.
Excellently
In
said.
some way, form, or fashion. Like, even if you were like super innovative and you thought of something and you're like, there's my idea. A teacher taught you something that led you to this point. They taught you critical thinking skills. They taught you analytical skills. They taught you creative. They taught you something at some point in your life that has gotten you to where you are now. So teachers should be paid more and possibly be given more holidays. I feel like I don't have enough.
Oh, no, you want a riot? You want to have people up in arms, more holidays than you mentioned? Come now.
But you see, because I live in a different society, and like I was talking to one of my very good friends, as I said, one of my best friends from Trinidad is in China. And I have another very good friend here who's Jamaican. And in China, for example, so like my school there's something called makeup days. Makeup days. My school, knock on wood, does not do makeup days. It's a holiday, we have the holiday. It's a work day, we in work. But there is something here called makeup day. So the school that my Jamaican friend is at, he worked on Saturday. Saturday was the makeup day for the holiday that's tomorrow or Tuesday. So you work the day back. And I've said to people say all kind of thing about the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and they're allowed to say about him. But if it was Rowley came on TV and say, listen, you know that like Easter coming up and them 4 days all they're going to get oil, they're working, but people will burn Trinidad to the ground. They will burn it to the ground. They will. If you say, you know, Christmas Day and Boxing Day and Old Year's and New Year's, all them days, people will burn it to the ground. They will. I cannot, if I ever saw like in December or January, there was a fire in town, like Quito's lost his mind, and tell them that it work back to this. But here, culturally, that's how it is. And they don't have like, you know, in Trinidad, like almost every month you have a holiday or a long. I don't have that here. That's why I feel like I need more holidays. I feel like I need more.
And don't forget, when it falls on a Sunday, we get it on a Monday. Right?
It have no such thing here. It have no. I was telling them, but I said, you know, Trinidad, if a holiday fall on a Sunday, they get money. And they were like, so it's just be home, boy, you're doing when you get. And I was like, we holiday because it's a holiday. And because a friend was like a foreign friend, or like another expert teacher said to me, so if a holiday falls on a Sunday, you'll get money. Because I was telling them about the time when I came to Trinidad, and I was like, I think it was something like Christmas was Sunday.
Right.
And then Monday was Boxing Day. But because the holiday fell on a Sunday, Monday was a holiday, but Monday was already a holiday. So Tuesday was also a holiday. And they were like, what kind of country you from? And I said, one of the best in the world, because it's a holiday. Like, we deserve hot people just get holidays. Teachers need holidays. I feel like I ramble about that, but I feel deep in my heart and soul, teachers need more holidays. And if your listeners take nothing else from this, teachers need more holidays and more pay. Okay, go ahead.
I know they will be quarreling with you one day. So you talk a bit about pastoral care and you're involved in pastoral care. Can you explain to listeners what that means? Let me say pastoral care, because I think it's a term we hear like in religion, you know, religiously. So what does it mean for teaching when we say pastoral care?
So the idea behind pastoral care is that when you are a teacher, again, you're not just teaching your student academics. And there is more to a child than just that will make them successful in life than just academics. You have to nurture an individual. You need to take care of their needs. So I'm not sure where the term pastoral care, because I like you, I thought of it as something religious, which is definitely not. There's a huge, definitely outside of, at least here where I'm in China, you don't talk about religion and stuff. So it has nothing to do with that. My school has no kind of, we don't pray in school. You have to be careful what you're saying about God and you know, like you respect everybody's religious beliefs and stuff, but it's not that. But the idea of it is you are taking a holistic approach to every one of your students, and you're seeing about their needs in and outside of the classroom. We talk about So in Trinidad, because that's where everything starts. As I said, I had teachers who I thought were absolutely amazing. I thought that even though I was mild shock, a naughty student, they cared about me. They wanted to know what my interests were. They nurtured those interests. So pastoral care has to do stuff like that as well. Pastoral care also has to deal with managing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stuff that people do, because if you have a child, let's use my dog, Finn. Finn is a student in your class and Finn is acting up. He's disrupting the class. He's not making progress in his academics. What is causing Finn to be disruptive, and not make progress? Is it something academic? Does he have some sort of learning block or barrier that we need to work through? Is it just a behavioral thing? So you address both. If it's a behavioral thing, what is causing Finn to behave like this? Is he having problems at home? Is he having problems at school socially? Because parents in my child doesn't behave like this at home, or they behave like this at home and then they kind of behave differently at school because they are naughty at home and very well behaved at school. So it's that idea of taking care of a child or a student holistically, seeing about all of their needs and nurturing the positive, helping and supporting where there's negative. So if it's a student who is struggling academically, finding out what is it like. If it's a language thing, are they dyslexic? Do they have a processing issue? Do they need more time to do exams? Do they need more time to do homework? Do they need less homework? Finding that balance to help and support that student. Because some students can do 14, 15 subjects and homework for all of them and study and excel and do well. But some students can only do 10 and excel, and some might be able to do 5 and excel, and understand that all children are different and you can't compare them. And what might help and support one student with this need may not help and support another student who has the same needs, because they're not copy paste carbon, copies of each other. They're different individuals with different needs. So that's what pastoral care is.
Okay, good. So you are head of grade.
I was at my was. So I would say I was. So at my current school, I'm just a tutor. And I'm head of Lee House, because we use a house system.
Okay.
And it's integrated in it. So I make joke and I tell people, like, I'm Professor McGonagall, I'm the head of house. So, and I use her because I feel like she cares about her students and teaches them well, but she can also be strict when she needs to be. That line when she said, why when there's trouble, it's always you three. And I look at myself and be like, is you again? Like, how are you in trouble again? What happened?
So how was it moving from head of grade to being a tutor again and so forth, that transition back?
Mixed, because at my current school, I have applied to be a head of grade and I wasn't successful because it's so many things. Like, one of the big things the last time I applied for it was they went with a candidate who was bilingual. So somebody who can communicate easily with parents. Because obviously if I have a meeting with a parent, as I mentioned before, it's me and somebody has to come to help to translate. So that's 2 people for a meeting. And if you're translating, so a meeting that could take 15 to 20 minutes to discuss an issue, if we are communicating in the same language, immediately it's doubled in time when somebody has to speak and talk and wait and that back and forth, right? So you're saving time there. And I miss being able to lead a team of people to help and support students. But then on a day-to-day basis, there is an element of relief because it's a lot of work, a lot to know and understand, and you can't drop the ball. And of course, people are human and they do drop the ball, but it's like, it's not one ball because you have several balls, because you have, let me see, at my school, we have 4 houses and each house is split into 2, and then each has like 30 children. And my math is terrible, but that's like 3 million children you're taking care of on a daily basis, that you have to make sure that all of their needs are being met. And that's just like you as a grade leader, as a teacher, who, if you're teaching grade 6, 7, 8, you have even more, like another 10 million children you need to see. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a lot. So there's an element of relief that I have a smaller group and I can focus my attention and time and give my students more support to excel in and out of the classroom. So I have students like I check in on them because that's part of our pastoral care. So you check in on your students, you ask them questions like how was your day? And it's not like a surface level question or how was your day yesterday? Like I heard you had a rough day. Tell me what happened. So you talk to them, you show an interest in them. You find out what subjects they're doing well in, what subjects they might be struggling in. We have behavior logs. So you might see where a child is consistently not doing homework in one class, two classes, all their classes. So, Finn, I've noticed you're not doing homework in English, but you're doing like your math homework and your science homework, what's going on? And you find out they have a tutor for science and math. They don't have a tutor for English and they need help and support with English. They don't understand the work. So that's why they're not doing it. So you can, help students there. It's those sorts of things. So I miss being a grade leader. But it's easier in some ways because I can give my students more attention. Because when you're a grade leader, as I said, and you have 3 million children, you have to be on top of everybody and all of their needs. And that can be a struggle because you still have your classes and everything else to do. And it's lots and lots of paperwork. Lots of paperwork. Oh my God. Lots of paperwork. And
I remember earlier
teachers have is paperwork. There's too much paperwork. Go ahead.
Yes. I feel after this you'll just go and make a list and you'll have, oh my gosh, another thing.
What were you going to say just now?
I remember you saying that the children are children anywhere, and I'm thinking of it in terms of like your teaching of drama, and you were saying some might be outgoing and then some might be shy. How do you engage those students who may not see themselves as naturally artistic, or a natural lover?
I find, so for example, at my last school, we would do the Shakespeare showcase. So for example, I would have some stronger students might get like a monologue. So they have more lines and, you work with them on a one-on-one to be expressive. I have some of them who, because sometimes we would break a monologue into smaller parts. So you have some kids who are good at learning and remembering lines, but they wouldn't want to be necessarily on stage alone. So you can put them in a small group where everybody has a little bit of lines and you pull the scene together. And then I had some students I would put in a part of a big group and they have 1 or 2 lines or they just have actions so that you find a way for them to still be successful. So for example, when we did Romeo and Juliet, you have the Montagues and the Capulets, and it's 2 warring families. So you have your head of both families who have more lines on stage and talking about the feud that the families are having and the fact that the children are in love and they are against it. But then you have other students on stage with them to represent the family, because as a family, we are united and we all disagree with these children being in love because we hate the other family. So they have a presence on stage. So they don't have as many lines. Or they may not have any lines at all, but they might have like an important role where they bring something on stage that has a significant meaning. So people remember them and they bring it on more than once. So I remember another time we were doing a play. I can't remember what it was now, which one it was, in terms of which one of the Shakespearean plays it was. But we did a play on the idea of light. And we had some students who had like a little scary or intense or serious happening on stage. They would come back and forth on the stage holding red candles. So the red signified that sort of seriousness of the situation. But then when it was something a little lighter happening, they had white candles. So they had no lines, but the audience, in watching the scene play out, would understand that red means something and white means something. So the students are still making like a meaningful contribution to the production as a whole, but you're taking that pressure off of them to like learn lines, learn the pronunciation, learn the interpretation, be nervous, you take it away from them.
So how do you think the drama kind of enhances that overall student development?
It helps students to build critical thinking skills for sure, because they have to think about how they're going to bring that character to light and understanding the character in some depth. It's not just like a surface level thing. It definitely helps them with their pronunciation and speaking and pacing. Because I tell students, if you come up on stage and you whisper like this and nobody's going to know what you're saying, right? And if you come on stage and you talk too fast, nobody's going to. So like you do all of those things. So how you could, do that like kind of like public speaking and stuff, but it also helps with their confidence. Because I tell them, if you're brave and you come on stage and you say your lines, you're not doing it for me. Nobody, I tell you, Trinidad, nobody coming to see Miss Trim on stage. They come in to see you on stage. They come in to see you perform. So be brave, take that risk, work on your confidence. So definitely, it helps them to improve their confidence and be risk takers. In life, there are going to be things that you don't want to do, but you have to do them anyway. So I tell students, take the chance. This is your opportunity to fail in a safe place. Because if you don't get it right, I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to throw you out of school. You would learn from it. You would know what you did well, what you could have done better. And the next time you have to be on stage, you'll probably have a better performance because you'll probably actually learn your lines this time or whatever it is. Remember to bring your costume or whatever it is. But sometimes in life, you mess up and it wasn't a safe space and time to mess up. So it's an opportunity to take a risk and fail in a safe environment and learn from it.
How do you think the students respond to your style of teaching drama? What do you think?
For both drama and English, I would say 95% of my students think I am. They tell me like I'm fun, I'm engaging, I'm crazy, they love it. It's wonderful. To have the 5% who think like I've had students say like, "Oh, you're a lot." Like you always excited. I had a student tell me that she was like, "Are you always excited like this?" And I was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Why? Just calm down." And I was like, "Whoa, like okay." So I think there's that 5% that I just don't mesh with. And that's just how life is. Yeah, I guess, and not even ice cream makes everybody happy because I guess if you're lactose intolerant, ice cream don't make you happy. But nobody or nothing will always be perfect, right? So you can't make everybody happy and stuff. So, but I think my students generally well receive me and enjoy the madness that is Miss Trim. I hope and I guess.
Right. So what have you learned from your students, both in language, literature, drama, in China that you didn't expect when you first began teaching there?
I think for me, one of the things I've learned from them is I've learned a lot about their culture and being able to adapt their culture and their situation and their perspective because there so many things are different. Like how they see the world and how they understand the world and interact with the world. And like a big thing, because there are some people have asked me about, which you haven't, but people have asked me about racism in China.
I was coming to it.
Yes, I say there's a fine line sometimes between racism and curiosity, because there are people who have literally never seen a Black person before in their life. And when you go to certain cities, like they look at you because they may have seen you on TV or something, but not in real. So they want to touch your skin, they want to touch your hair. And some people say, "Oh, that's racist." It's curiosity because they just, think. So I've learned a lot about them in that, and I understand that now that not every single thing is racist. Some things are just curiosities, the perspective. I have learned a very we lead different lifestyles. Like it's a bit more normal, at least in my time, for a Caribbean man to have children with different women and out of wedlock, and that don't happen here. I mean, it no, because people get married and they have a family, and the family may the parents may get divorced and then mother or father starts another family, but a man not just running around with 25 children, and that could happen in the Caribbean, right? Like easy. Listen, I could tell you some stories about my personal life separately, but 25 over 25 children.
Right. Wow.
So I learned, like how my outlook on life, my view, my perspective, my understanding of people and history and culture and different things has definitely been shaped by being out here. At my current school, one of the things that I've learned from my students is how to break down information, because I have a class, the English classes are now kind of like streamed, where because you still differentiate because you have different levels within your class and differentiation is huge still, but you have students who are kind of in a similar level. So you have to learn how to break down the information in a way that they can understand that. And that's a skill that I acquired here for sure, like that kind of fine tuning to people, but also that wonderfulness of like seeing it, because sometimes you see it in your students' eyes, or and you hear it when they speak to you, when like you've explained a concept and they get it, and that bulb turns on. Like I love that. Like I've learned that. I've missed that because that. But I think when I taught drama, there was less of that. Because I think it was a thing of we putting together a performance, a production, you're going to sing, you're dancing, you're learning these lines, you're doing this. So it's kind of more of like you have a part, but it's kind of like you're doing your part. You're not learning something that you might use later on. Because I know what I said about the skills and stuff that they get, but you know what I mean? Like, when you break down a concept for a student in an English class and they get it and they give you another example of something, you're like, yes, that's it. That moment, I've learned that from my students.
Great. Yeah. I think that I didn't ask you much more about the language literature because you said basically the children kind of at the level you're teaching already come in knowing enough English.
I have students who they've come from public school, whether it was my last school or my current school, and they have limited English. But again, because the classes are streamed and it's back to that sense of pastoral care. What does this child need to excel? So they have some problems with language. So we have something called Spanish extraction, where instead of going to Spanish class, they are pulled out of Spanish class and they get extra English classes that will help them back in their, like, be able to function and cope better and do better in their regular English class. So it's those sorts of things. Like everything is kind of intertwined together.
So you said a bilingual school. So what are the languages? Because I really probably wrong in thinking in English and their local language, but I wasn't thinking Spanish, and I'm hearing you saying you mentioning it now. So what other languages? What does a bilingual school mean?
So definitely a bilingual school is a school that the main curriculum is offered in the native language, which is Chinese, Mandarin, and then they do English as well.
Right.
You have they do modern foreign languages, so they will do some schools offer Spanish, some schools offer French, some schools offer German, because it's that idea that they're teaching them different languages.
Okay.
I guess just like in Trinidad, you would do French and Spanish.
Spanish, yes. Yeah. Okay,
good. But when they say bilingual, I think because there's more than one French school in Shanghai. I think at the French school, their bilingual school is French and Chinese. And then English is the one that they are taught in addition, whereas in most schools will be Chinese and English, and then they do either Spanish or German or something in addition.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up here, what I think everybody would want to know, the usual question, what advice would you tell people considering teaching abroad, especially in China? What was some of the things you would like them to know?
It's doable. It's not impossible. It is having you definitely have to have a growth mindset. It have no water and no electricity, so you're going home. it don't have that. It don't have rain falling, so you're late for work and you didn't come. It don't have that. So
Right.
it's like on a basic level, you have to adjust your level of thinking. And it's not a knock on anybody. That's just how it is. Like I can't say to my principal, I'm not coming to school because rain falling. She's not going to understand what I trying to say to her. Like rain falling, come to work. Like take a car, take the bus, ride a bike, swim, come to work, come to work. So after, I would say definitely have like an open mindset. Know that it's not impossible. It's not easy. Because as I said, children are children, parents are parents, teachers are teachers. So you will encounter the same sorts of problems and that you might have at home in Trinidad. You might encounter those all different kinds. Because it's as I said, we didn't touch on it much, but racism is real, and a lot of the racism I encountered here wasn't from local people. It was from colleagues who think that because they look a certain way or they're from a certain country, they're superior to me. And that's something that you need to know, because you have two people who will tell you because you're from Trinidad, you're not a native speaker of English. And there are countries, like if you're coming here, that they consider to be native English speaker countries. Yes. So that, knowing what the situation is, I would say, like, do a lot of research and make an informed decision, because it's not going to be easy, but it's also not impossible. It's a wonderful way to have a different experience, especially like if you have a family. And like young children, it's great to bring young children and have them immersed in a different culture and have a different educational experience coming up. And try it is my advice. Do your research, make an informed decision and try it.
So how do you respond to people when they tell you Trinidad is not a country with native English speakers?
I feel like I swear on your podcast, so
okay.
I don't swear, but
give them the Trinidadian response. I give them the Trinidadian.
Yes, they will get Trinidadian response from me. But I, in the beginning, I would say I used to be offended by it. But then again, with time and perspective, I understand why people think that because you're from a certain place, you're superior. Because that's not a new concept, is it? But because you're living in Trinidad and we live a particular way in Trinidad, and every creed and race finds an equal place, and we have little problems, and somebody says something and everybody jump out themselves and it's an argument and whatever it is. But we settle it, because at the end of the day, we're Trinidadians, we're from the same place. When you come out into the real world, there are things that can only exist in Trinidad, like certain phrases and certain ways of identifying who you are and how you see yourself. So I tell people that you may think that I am not from a native speaking country, because that is your perspective and your worldview, and that's okay for you. I am from Trinidad. I know that I am English is my native language, and I am a speaker of English. And I'm not going to argue with you, because neither of us is going to win. You have your opinion, I have mine, and it have bigger problems in the world than that. And also there is the argument that at home, a lot of children speak dialect first, and then they learn English in school. So English is probably not your native language, throughout the Caribbean. That's a whole other kind of worms that we're not going to get into. But yeah, I don't take people on. I really don't.
Well, I want my listeners to know that you empower minds and you ignite curiosity. Thank you so much for
Patrice
Trim joining us here all the way from China. And I know taking some time out of your evening there to do this. I'm very, very much.
Yeah, because it's like almost 11 o'clock in the night, Sunday night here. It's okay. No, I enjoyed it.
And you guys are hearing how bubbly she is at 11 p.m. at night when half of us are in bed, right? So you know what the students get.
You're always like this. And I was like, yes, you got to make it exciting. I don't know. Nobody wants to listen to me drone on and on about, randomness. I had to make it interesting. I hope I answered your questions. I hope.
Yes. Thank you so much for doing this.